Do your research. The legal
Uh-huh.
databases are free and they are open. Do your research
Ooh.
before you invest time and money making t-shirts on a band name that you cannot trademark.
Welcome to Fearless Podcasting Academy. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Dean. I've always lived in two worlds, one filled with the magic of storytelling and language, and the other wired with technology and innovation. And through the years of research and teaching and hands-on experience, I've been obsessed with one question: what makes a message truly resonate? And that's why I created the Fearless Podcasting Academy, where creators and entrepreneurs and change makers come to ditch self-doubt, amplify their voices, and build podcasts that demand attention. So whether you're launching your first episode or leveling up your platform, you're in the right place. Because when you learn to use your voice with confidence, you don't just start a podcast, you start a movement. This is Fearless Podcasting Academy. When I taught podcasting at university, because I actually teach this at university now, that's a question I always got from my students, and I really never knew how to answer it well, or like well enough to not get them in trouble. And then when I talked to Shelly Ann, I was like, do you know anyone I could talk to about music and copyright? And she's like, yes, I do. Try her, hit her up. So I did. I hit you up. But when I started reading through your website, it is literally a mixtape of badassery. You're a lawyer and an artist and an activist. Do you feel like your legal knowledge gives you more freedom or more protection in your music career?
So when I first thought about law school, my mom was like, you might enjoy this program that I found at Vermont Law. Try it out and just see. Through law school, I started learning how to strategize, which is really the foundation of like what lawyers and attorneys do. Figuring out how to get someone from where they are, whatever happened. I wasn't there for the history of the previous things, but this is where we are. And our goal is to get off or, get them to pay us or whatever. That in-between space is where strategy takes place. And to me, I see that as a field of creativity and how I approach strategizing through things. So for me, how it ties back to music is every step of the way, I don't know what my creativity might, produce for me at whatever stage in life. Because, we have experiences that we go through, and that's kind of what fuels our creativity in those moments in life. So for me, because I can't predict the future of what my creativity is, I know that I can strategize through it when I get to each step. So that can be in how I protect my music through copyright, trademarking, how I set up my business, how I approach like teaching other people or independent contractors, taxes down the line. So for me, it's a way to just protect my artistry, protect what it is that I am building.
So what's one thing that you think that every artist really needs before they put their work into the world? Because like I said earlier, when we were talking before this, I've had a lot of students ask me, both at the university level and then in my podcasting academy, I want to be a music commentator. I want to talk about music, but I don't feel like I can because I can't play the song and then talk about it. So what are the common pitfalls?
When people are creating music, we are inspired by something. Oftentimes when we get into like the copyright space, people get so inspired, for example, to use the chord progression from Teen Spirit to create a new song. What people don't understand is understanding the creative process for each person is different, but within that, the rights that are associated each process, step of the way during that process is what's important, if that makes sense. When you create the song, it is yours because you created it. But where people tend to mess up is not getting the tangible paper or the registration that says you own this and these are the rights that you have to exercise to protect that.
It's not cut and dry, right? Copyright law, there's a lot of different aspects to it. So I'm going to go in a little bit more on that, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
So what are the legal must-knows for podcasters who want to use music in their shows?
Well, first and foremost, it depends on how you're using it. Definitely making sure you get all licenses that are needed in order to use that music. So sometimes that can mean getting the sample cleared from the artist or the rights holder. Sometimes if you're doing like a full cover of it, like if you're a podcaster who is also a musician and you want to cover Teen Spirit and use your version in your podcast, making sure that you get your license to be able to not copy, but like cover that and be able to use it on your podcast. So just, again, making sure that you procure any licenses that you need, mechanical licensing to cover a song, if you have to get a sample clear, knowing how to access the rights holder. Oftentimes that's just looking at, who wrote the song or looking at the credits, who owns the copyright, and going to that person directly to like the Harry Fox agency to help procure licenses. So all of that, and then if you're doing like original music in your podcast, making sure that you get all of that copywritten overall. My thing for creative people, irrespective of what, form of the arts you exist in, podcasting, if you're creating like with mixed mediums, canvases, musicians, making sure that you think and act like a business owner is one of the biggest mistakes that people miss, or that it becomes a mistake because we don't think about ourselves as business people or as business owners. Um, and, you end up reaping some of the negative parts of not thinking like that down the line by way of your music getting stolen or someone taking your name. So I just think overall, the approach to being the best creative person that you can be and how you show up in the world is first and foremost thinking like a business person and protecting your things, protecting like it's your baby, because it is.
I've had students tell me, well, I found my name on social media, so it's mine. I'm like, no, sweetie, that's not how that works. You've got to do more than
Right.
just claim it on Instagram or claim it on, because the next social media that comes out, someone else can claim it. That's not.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. Thinking like a business person from the beginning, it may not be very fun, but just like reach down, pull out your inner Taylor Swift and
Pull out your inner Beyoncé, just get it done.
Yep. Yep. So, what is the difference between licensing a song and using royalty-free music?
So when you license a song, you're asking the rights holder for permission to use the song. Sometimes, and that's called getting a mechanical license. Where it gets a little tricky is some people want to cover a song just for the purposes of putting it on YouTube. It wouldn't be a bad idea to get a mechanical license for that, but where it's really important and like actually needed is if you plan on releasing your cover or your version of someone's song on a streaming platform that you're making money off of. Because at that point, you're making money off of someone else's song that you're covering, i.e. a form of infringement. So
Yeah.
that's why it's important to get a mechanical license when you're covering someone else's song. Now, there have been times where, like when we first did the Teen Spirit cover, it was just going to be a video on social media. There was, never any intent to like make it go to the studio and record it and everything. So when we first did that, just, giving credit where it's due, but when people put the copyright with the person's name in the year, a lot of times giving that credit where it's due will save you from getting hit with YouTube, blocking the song or, you not being able to, where it becomes an issue though, is when it's time to release it on a streaming platform. Royalty-free music is music that can be used because there's no money being made off of it. So it's just whoever is the rights holder is just like allowing any and everyone to use the, that music. Lo-fi music on YouTube is a great example because no one is making any money off of, streaming those songs. But, it's also the people who are making the lo-fi are also not claiming rights of that music, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So if you've got a budding YouTuber and they are an amazing artist, but they've covered a few things first, they blow up, they get monetized. Do they need to go back and get mechanical license for those covers that they did? Or do they need to redo their covers?
So I think it depends because YouTube, I've had times where YouTube will like secure the right to being able to use that for the person whose account it is, depending on, I guess, the monetization rules. And I'll be honest, I don't know the rules of engagement with monetizing and everything. And like, up to like how many streams you have to have in order for something to be monetized. And so I don't know all the details of that, but I do know that if you're getting to a point of making money off of someone's music, you do need to make sure that you get a mechanical license. Again, you can do that through YouTube. There are people who release covers and are able to secure that license through the streaming platform that they're releasing it on. But then there are people who just go straight to the rights holder, Harry Fox agency. So there are a lot of different ways to get that license. But if you're going to be making money, for sure, get a mechanical.
Okay. So not to throw a wrench in it, but I love throwing wrenches in things. So say you're doing commentary on it. Say I'm a huge fan of Tulips and I want to do commentary on your music and then have basically a fan podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you play in a little bit of the music and say, oh, this is coming. I'm so excited. I can't wait to listen to it. Or even like break down like the riffs on this one are a little bit different from that one. Where is this fair use? Because I know fair use commentary, like on books or films or video, you're allowed to use it in some instances.
Yeah. So it all boils back down to the intent behind you using that person's work. So if
Mhm.
I know that I'm just like doing commentary for the sake of a YouTube video, there's not a need to get a mechanical license for that because I'm not going out here, selling this song on my YouTube channel, someone else's music on my YouTube channel to make money. That is
Yeah.
where you would 100% be infringing on someone else's right. But it goes back to if you're going to be using that person's work, that person's art to make a profit off of it, you need a mechanical license. If you're just using it
Okay.
like for social media, you're just throwing something up, you're reviewing a video on YouTube, that's a different situation because again, you're not using that person's song to
Mhm.
create or stream or, to make money off of.
Yeah. That totally makes sense. Yeah. And I think that is the question I was getting the most from my students is like, when can I do commentary more than anything else? Because they want to do like not a radio show. They're not playing because then that's a whole different kind of license that they need if they're like playing it like a radio show. But they wanted to do like commentary, and it was a lot of people that were like super fans of a band and they want to talk about that band. And when they talk about it, or if they talk about like, hey, here's the story behind this, and they play like a few seconds of the music and then as like the intro, and then they give the story behind it, and then they, talk about the band. So, are there any platforms or resources that you recommend for legally sourcing music for podcasts or YouTube?
So two things specifically about YouTube. When you're using someone like when people create their videos and they upload, like a few seconds of that song being played so that they can do the commentary, more often than not, like all the time, YouTube will catch that and will do a quick, check to make sure, that you're clearing the fair use in terms of the amount of time that you have the song playing. Your YouTube will make sure that that's clear to make sure you're in the fair use territory. If you start
Yeah.
getting past that, YouTube will let you know, hey, you got to get rights or get the permission from the right. So I do like that YouTube has that incorporated because a lot of people, when YouTube first came out, we're all like, what are we supposed to be doing? So that was the first
Yes.
thing. But second thing, in terms of resources, I believe in going straight to the source. The copyright website has a lot of really good, well explained videos, short articles where it explains things. There are also a lot of resources that they give to different firms and other lawyers and attorneys out there who could answer more specific questions. LegalZoom is also a really good
Oh,
resource that you can use because,
uh-huh.
again, they have a lot of great resources where they explain what is copyright, what is the purpose of having us do it, what is the
Yeah.
difference in you doing it on your own. So there are a lot of resources out there, and I know it's a lot, to kind of process. You get bogged down in it, but I believe in going straight to the source, starting with the copyright
Yeah.
office, clicking on that about or that info tab, and just dive
Yes.
right in.
Yes. So I kind of grew up at the heyday of the internet and everything at that point, because this is when people really started becoming producers versus consumers of media online. This was like early 2000s, late 1990s. And Creative Commons was the thing. Everyone had Creative Commons. I don't see that as much as I used to
Yeah.
then, but if you were a YouTuber or a lot of authors, especially during like NaNoWriMo, you had Creative Commons on a lot of your works. But I don't see that as much, but basically that's you setting up your like what you're allowing people to use your thing for. Like this is my work. I'm okay with you sharing it. I'm not okay with you selling it. So there's like levels. I remember you could go to the Creative Commons site to get your license and there
Yeah.
were like levels that you gave it and then you put it on a page or somewhere that people could click on and see what you allow
Yeah.
people to do with
Yeah.
your work. So if a podcaster gets like a takedown notice or a legal threat, what is the first thing they should do besides not panic?
Definitely inquire and ask questions. I mean, I know sometimes like the automated takedowns and stuff like that will just send like a general email that is like, hey, your stuff has gotten taken down for this reason. I definitely believe in reaching out again and like just directly asking, which I know sounds like such a simple, obvious thing to do, but for a lot of people, it's not because they'll read
Yeah.
those automated emails and just be like, well, I mean, it is what it is. But and then on top of that, a lot of these like companies like YouTube and even some streaming platforms. I'm trying to remember because I had a person a few months ago where they had a similar situation where I think she used a very, very short snippet of something, a sample in her song, and released it, and it was fine for like 6, 7 months. And then all of a sudden, the streaming platform took it down and said, I don't remember what their reasoning was, but they sent one of those general emails, and it just kind of sat in her email for like maybe 5 months because she was just like, I don't even know where to start. They
Oh
don't have
wow.
telephone information. It's not like you can just call, can't send an email directly to anybody. So this is where the business owner and the not so fun part comes in, getting on the internet and finding someone's direct contact information that can answer
Yeah.
the question, which takes a lot
Yeah.
of time. But just getting
Yeah.
straight to like, what is the issue so that I can get a solution to
Mhm.
myself getting back up.
And I think a lot of people too, if they don't know, if they were allowed to use it or not, will just go, oh, okay, I can't do that. So I won't do it again. Versus like figuring it out or talking to, we don't talk to each other anymore. Like just talk to someone, find out. Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Also, last thing on that, also a lot of times those systems are just like automated. So like the system, and remember, these are all systems that humans build, and all of us make mistakes because we're humans. Therefore, technology makes mistakes. So sometimes I have found, like, especially on Instagram, I don't remember how many years ago it was, but I feel like there was an era where you could have a video that you edited and put the music on it yourself and then upload it, and it would be fine. Every now and then I would get a song taken down, because it says original audio, but it's not like it's Beyoncé, but I did it in another app and then uploaded it. So the system automatically flagged it and sent me, hey, a takedown notice. But I just sent them, fill out the little form at the very bottom. And also the fine print is where we miss things too. And companies are really good at making sure that you get lost in the sauce.
Oh, 100%.
Right. Sometimes they'll have a sentence that's like, if you want to file a complaint, then click here. But it's all in bold. So you're like, where's the here? Most of the time, if someone wants to draw your attention to something in the sentence, it's hyperlinked. There's no
Yep.
hyperlink. So nobody thinks to click anything. But if you click one of the words, you might be surprised. So I'm just saying it's little things like that companies, don't make it obvious. And then people just kind of say, oh, well, just leave the email, there in the video down and keep moving.
Yeah, yeah, because it's in their interest, right, to have you take it down and not do anything with it and not make it easy.
Right.
YouTube actually, like you said, they usually send you a reason, but you also can usually dispute it, which is awesome that you can actually say, hey, I had this reason, or actually, I was doing a research project about you using YouTube, and I used some videos from the research subjects that I was doing this on. And my application, instead of a written application, was a video, which was a very unusual way of sending in an academic application in video form. And so I sent it off, I sent them the link, and then YouTube took it down. And I'm like, no, but I can't just re-upload it because I sent them the link. What do I do?
That would have driven me.
But I was able to say, no, this is fair use. I'm using it in this way. And then they just put it back up in like 2 hours. It didn't even take long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is stuff like that. It's sometimes it's so simple. Just like reading the email and hitting dispute, fair use. I didn't claim any rights to it. And put it right back up.
Yeah, exactly. Which was good because I had sent it off with the link.
Right.
You can't change that. Exactly. So we have people that want to start a music podcast. So what is the advice to someone who wants to build a podcast centered entirely around music, like interviews, live performances, or song breakdowns? Is there anything you would just be like, dude, this is my advice on this?
First and foremost, setting your business stuff up, like setting all of your business stuff up. And if you're going to have people like that are part of helping you, making sure that you have like some sort of independent contractor agreement, because a lot of times we start things with friends because they're our friends. And then the first challenge shows up. And then now, we don't know how to, navigate this. And, it's not like we live in a society where people are encouraged to speak to each other to work through their differences. So, right. And then it becomes, well, they're no longer my friend. And then, well, this is mine and it's mine. And I always tell people the hardest part about working with friends is like taking off that friend hat sometimes and realizing right now we're business owners and we need to conduct this as a business and take your feelings out of it. It doesn't mean I don't love you, but right now this is about setting our stuff up correctly so that we don't get, our stuff taken down and not be able to, reach this goal. So that's setting up your business and, contractor agreements. Again, making sure you have your trademarks, your licenses for all that kind of stuff, and take care of the business part first.
Yeah, I love that. And it's mutually beneficial, right? Like if you're working with friends or family, like I'm protecting both of us by doing this. We are setting this up correctly. It's protecting both of us and that, if anything happens.
Right.
So maybe even couch it that way. Like I'm doing this because I care about you, not because I think something will happen.
Right. Right. And that's such a simple sentence. But like a lot of people, me being the first one, like when I first started Tulips, was doing it with friends. So the conversations weren't like that. It was like, we're friends and I'm trying to do something, y'all support me. And
Uh-huh.
challenges showed up and human nature, people human.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I'm the only one left.
Yeah.
And so just, no, and also just being real with yourself. Do I have
Uh-huh.
the fortitude to actually do this? Because
Yeah.
it seems like a really good idea because the fun music part, the art part, the creativity part, that side of your brain is like, I see so many possibilities, and that's great.
Yeah.
But the logic has to also come in. Do I have the discipline to work through hard conversations with people? Do I know how to manage my musicians as a manager, as a band leader, as a leader, and not their friend?
Mhm.
Like, do you have the fortitude to actually do what you need to do?
And maybe even starts with the question of, do you want this to be a hobby or a business? What do you actually want out of this?
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Goal setting. Again,
Yeah.
something that we don't really teach kids in elementary, middle, high school like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But we need to. We absolutely need to.
Yeah, we need to.
I love this. This has been the best conversation.
Yes.
So, okay, let me ask you some. I'm going to go back to the personal stuff again. So, what is a song, since we've talked so much about songs and music, what is a song that always gets you fired up before something big?
Formation. Formation by Beyoncé.
Very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So, where can people find you, your music, your work?
So website is www.txlips.com. It is
Yeah.
spelled TX Lips, but it's pronounced tulips.
Yep.
And that was part of that, that period of time of figuring out, how do I want to brand myself? How do I want to,
Yeah.
like, what trade? And then also really quick sidebar going back to her, do your research. The legal
Uh-huh.
databases are free and they are open. Do your research
Ooh.
before you invest time and money making t-shirts on a band name that you cannot trademark. That's what, go straight to the source, because the trademark office and the copyright website, you can call, and also call them. They have
Uh-huh.
phone numbers. Now, it
Yeah.
might be stressful, getting through customer service, but I call up there all the time and ask dumb questions.
Uh-huh.
To them, it's probably a dumb question, but I'm not going to get on my rabbit hole. I'm just saying, call, look
Yeah.
at the databases before you invest time and money into something that is your craft.
I feel like I know it's cliche to say there are no such thing as stupid questions, but if you are genuinely information searching, there's no such thing. And if you're just being a troll, yeah, there's stupid
And there's a
questions.
dumb question.
But if you are genuinely wanting information, there is not a stupid question.
No such thing.
Intent. It goes back to intent, right?
Exactly, exactly. And you'd be surprised the amount of, and this is another thing I think, like as a lawyer and just like the way that I see things, I
Mhm.
ask people the same questions over and over again, even though I already know the answer.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I don't know the context of other answers that are applicable to the current law that we're dealing with in terms of copyright.
Yeah.
That's the
Uh-huh.
reason why I'm like, obviously, there's a step to copyright. I can tell people that all day. But sometimes people need to go and find knowledge on their own, which is the way that I like to exist in the legal realm. I can file your copyright application for you, but I would prefer to show you how to do it, show you how to ask questions, show you how to research so that you know that journey for yourself, because then you're apt to protect it a lot more
Yes, because you have personal investment in it.
because you put some
Skin in
skin
the
in it.
game.
Yes. Yep.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
So I was about to ask you any final advice for our fearless podcasters who want to use music to amplify their message. And I feel like you just gave us
all of that. Yeah, all of that.
really good advice there. I'm not even going to like in post, I'm not even going to change the order of that. I'm just going to be like,
Yes.
she said it and she just anticipated the question.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm going to edit out all of our tech. I don't know. Sometimes I leave it in there because it's fun and it makes you more human.
Yeah, I take the same approach. And there are people who are like, oh, well, I can hear that you messed up on this part of the recording. And I'm like, I caught that as well. But we also,
Yeah.
I like when you can hear the moment that someone is about to make a mistake and the other musicians musically come to support so that it doesn't become,
Right.
you can hear those things in music, whether you're a musician or not.
Yeah.
Those are the things that make people say, I want to hear that record again, because I really like at the very end of The Teacher by the Foo Fighters, there's a moment where there's it's just guitar in your face. And I
Yeah.
love that. And that's a signature Foo Fighters thing. But when you hear the way that Pat is like scratching off, at the very end and letting it just kind of ring, and you hear Dave Grohl's take, I don't know.
Yeah.
I love those.
Okay. I'm going to have to go and listen now because I actually like the Foo Fighters. I'm going to go listen and see.
Foo Fighters this whole time. I am the biggest fan.
Oh, okay. So I have been listening. I listen to them. I run slowly, badly, but I run. I listen to that, and I listen to the what the hell are they called? I'm so bad with names. Gimme Gimmes. It's like punk. It's they do a lot of punk covers of like old Paula Abdul and old like
Cool.
60s music.
Yes. And see, like, that's
Uh,
just a real quick example of, like,
yeah,
being inspired, like someone doing a cover of Paula Abdul's song. It's two
right.
different songs. And like, as a listener, I want to be able to stream both. Get your mechanical
Yeah.
license and you can have a ball. You can do it however many iterations you want.
That is
Yeah.
so true because it's a different piece of art, right? You are reimagining it to something else.
Yeah, yeah, and that's part of what when you file your copyright, that's part of what's built into the rights that you get as a creative person. You
Uh-huh.
get the right to let people experiment, with your song and however they want to, as long as they're giving credit where it's due and you're paying me, based on whatever royalty streams, et cetera. And that's why I love people find they use their creative avenues as a way to get away from the world. And so I like to meet people while they're in that space to bring them back to the real world, the real job, the 9 to 5, and then show them how to bridge the gap. Like, the libraries haven't closed and the internet is still free.
Yes,
There's no
exactly.
reason for you to not learn something, but you have to want to. It's
Yeah.
possible, but it's going to require some fortitude. Ask yourself, do you have that? It requires
Yes.
discipline. Are you able to get up every day and do things that you don't want to do? Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Cool
That
talking to you.
is so
Great.
I had the best time too. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Likewise.